Hey everybody, welcome to Active Self-Protection Extra. You have heard here on the channel, we have had criminal defense attorneys on the channel who have said, never say anything to the cops. Now, of course, Massad Ayoob is a national expert. I'm here at Deadly Force instructor class this week, and you disagree with that, and I want to give him a chance to explain why. After thorough testing, I recently changed my everyday OC spray to Palm Personal Defense Spray. It's nasty stuff, and I recommend it highly. So, Mas, you teach a five-pronged statement, a short statement instead, whereas we've had attorneys on the channel who are like, no, don't say a word. Don't ever say anything. Just invoke your right to counsel and let them do their job. Why do you think it's a bad idea to just completely invoke the right to silence?
Well, you remember when your little mommy told you you only have one chance to make a first impression? Mm-hmm. That's true of the responding officers and investigating officers at a shooting scene as well. Now, their training, and for most of them, most of their experience, has been when they get to a scene where one person's horizontal in a puddle of blood and the other is standing there with a smoking gun on him somewhere, generally, whoever's horizontal turned out to be the victim. Whoever put him horizontal turns out to be the perpetrator. So here's your first impression, and that's not good. Maybe the dead guys or dying guys' last words are, that Korea guy, he shot me for nothing.
Hopefully not.
Okay. Yeah. Whoever makes the history of the criminal justice system it's geared on the assumption that whoever makes the complaint is the victim complainant. Whoever does not get their side up front automatically by default becomes the perpetrator.
Right.
Now it gets worse. All his experience has been that when he's got a genuine victim, says, buddy, what happened here? They say, that SOB did this awful thing and I'll testify against him in court. And every perpetrator they get, they say, buddy, I'm willing to hear your side. They say, I ain't telling you nothing until my mouthpiece gets here. Now they're on the scene. He's horizontal, even though he's the perpetrator, doing a very convincing imitation of a victim. You're vertical. He's managed, or one of his friends has blurted, that evil man in the black shirt with the Mantis logo shot my friend for nothing out of savage bloodlust. Ask you, sir, what's your side of the story? I ain't telling you nothing until my mouthpiece gets here. Now, you won't be using those exact words,
no,
but you know that's how it's going to be heard. You have just set the stage. And from there, it's gonna go.
And so in your mind, you say, listen, that can get rebutted, that can get changed, but you're setting things in motion that you don't want to head that way.
It's going to be an uphill fight for the attorney. Now, other problems that you have here, very often these situations, look at how many of your cases that you've shown on your channel end up multiple bad guys. Let's say one is down horizontal, one is running away, maybe wounded, and the other's just running the hell away. Well, there were 3 deadly threats when you drew your weapon.
Yep. 2
of them now remain at large. You don't tell that to the police. You don't tell the police what they did. You don't give them a description. And now 6, 8 months, maybe more than a year later, we're trying to establish you are the good guy. And on cross-examination, you go, let me get this straight, Mr. Correa. You want this jury to believe you're the good guy. The sheepdog that protected the poor lambs from the wolf. And yet, you knew 2 savage predators were still up and running, threatening that community, and you didn't bother to tell the police. How are you going to get past that? So what I'm going to suggest to you is this, the 5-point checklist real quick. First, establish the active dynamic. The active dynamic of what happened is not that you shot him. That's got to be patently obvious. It's whatever he did that forced you to shoot him. This man attacked me, this man pulled a knife on me, whatever it was. Second, reinforce that. First, you've made yourself the victim complainant. You've established that. Okay, we've got a good solid foothold on the truth now. Second, confirm that. Make a statement to the effect that you will testify against him. Now, this we found to be, the wording to be a little bit tricky. Most people, if you ask them, okay, how would you do that? What would you say? They would say, I'll press charges. And in most cases, many jurisdictions, that is the right thing to say. But attorneys, cops in different jurisdictions use different terminology for different things. And in many jurisdictions, only the prosecutor presses charges. And if you've inadvertently found yourself in one of those places, saying, "Oh, I'll press charges," sounds like, okay, he has delusions of being chief prosecutor, note to self.
Note to self.
In most places, "I will sign the complaint," is the language they're used to hearing from the victim. Fascinating thing you always learn in this business. Our friend and colleague Weems
Lee Weems.
Lee Weems in Georgia. He was in this class, and he told me during break, Mass, you don't want to be saying that in Georgia. And I said,
Really?
why not? And he said, because the cop's got to look at me and look at you and say, what did I do? Because in Georgia, signing the complaint is what you do if you got a beef with a cop for internal affairs.
So know your jurisdiction.
The one I've not seen any reason not to use yet is "I will testify against him." That should be universal.
Should be pretty universal.
So now with that second check, we have reconfirmed from the get-go. You're the good guy, he's the bad guy. Third, point out the evidence. We went into exhausting detail in this class on how evidence can get changed, altered, disappeared. Often, if you've shot them up badly enough, they're going to use a medevac. You ever see what when helicopters land nearby, what the wind does to everything on the ground, stirs up the giant tsunami of sand? The spent casings blow everywhere.
God forbid the fire department shows up and the evidence eradication team is here.
Cops jokingly call the first medical responders the evidence eradication team because in their job and ours, all first responders, life is the highest priority. They are wearing big, heavy emergency shoes. They are running to the scene to get to the victim to try to help him. They are rolling the gurney across. We've seen spent casings get caught in boot treads, get caught in the treads of gurneys, get caught in the clothing of the man you shot if it happened at close range. Let's say I'm left-handed with a conventional pistol with the right side ejection port. As I fire here, shell casing comes up here, gets caught in your clothing, and somewhere between here and the sidewalk falls out. It's going to look like I shot you out there, and I'm lying about having shot you in here. We've had cases of witnesses picking up shell casings for souvenirs.
Wow.
The bad guy drops his weapon. Particularly in certain inner city areas, a weapon dropped on the street has the same survival life of a Corvette Stingray with an open top and an open door and keys in the ignition. If you don't point out the evidence as soon as possible, it can get moved or lost, and it will never come back to exonerate you and confirm your story. Fourth, point out the witnesses. You're all familiar with the history going back to 1973 and the murder of Kitty Genovese in New York. All those people who heard her scream, "Help, help, he's stabbing me." And only one finally, when it was too late, picked up the phone to call the police. And the syndrome was called, "I don't want to get involved." Well, if you point out the witnesses before they decide they don't want to get involved, now they're on the radar, and now the statements that would exonerate you are not lost. And people always ask, well, what if the witness is a gangbanger buddy of the guy I shot and he lies about me? No crap, Sherlock. He was going to do that anyway. That's your attorney's job to break the lie. Finally, it's at that point you need to shut up. Not say nothing to the police, but, "Officer, you're going to have my full cooperation after I've spoken with counsel." And from that point, keep that like name, rank, and serial number. You're being recorded on the officer's body cam, maybe on a dash cam. The jury will see you were cooperative. You gave essentially the same emergency statements a police officer would make at a shooting scene to the investigating officers. You have been polite. You have not evinced the guilty behavior that they associate from watching TV. Here's how the cops interact with, how the bad guys interact with the cops. And that you are on video stating, "Officer, you'll have my full cooperation after I've spoken with counsel."
So
you have invoked your rights.
And we're good. What I hear here, the attorneys are really worried about you saying too much. People develop logorrhea, right? Diarrhea of the mouth after adrenaline dumps. And what Moss, I think, gives us is a pathway to not say too much, but not say nothing.
The problem is so many people out there either haven't been trained at all, or they focus their training on, when do I shoot him? Can I shoot him this way? Can I shoot him this other way? Can I shoot him in this third hypothetical scenario?
Right.
And they've never really seriously discussed handling the aftermath except, How long does it take to say, never talk to the police? Okay, less than 3 seconds.
Right.
And they've had 3 seconds of preparation, and that's all they fall back on. If they start babbling, it's because they never thought of what to say. They don't know what to say.
A path to walk,
Exactly.
and I ingrain that path, I can restrain my mouth.
How many times has someone told you, I didn't know what to say? Part of our job is letting them know. It's not we're giving them a script or anything like that. We're telling them these are the things that need to be established to preserve the truth of the investigation and find justice.
So I look at it like, so I operated nuclear reactors in the Navy for 8 years, right? So when we had a nuke, we had emergency procedures that you had to know cold. So then that way, when the emergency happened, you didn't have to go look them up. So this 5-point checklist is like an emergency procedure. I know these 5 points, establish the dynamic, right? Say that I will press those charges, I will be a part of the good guy team here. Then I'm going to say, here's any evidence that I know where it is. Here's the witnesses, I know where they are. And now I need to talk to counsel, and I'm not going to say anything else. That's the path I walk.
They'll have my full cooperation after I've spoken with counsel or words to that effect.
So if you take that path, and I've had a lot of people that the attorneys that go, man, I think that this is really hard advice. Okay, then, if you don't like the other advice, this is the path to walk.
Well,
Moss, you're the expert in it.
My answer to that would be this. If you don't think that you can handle that, if you don't think you can memorize 5 things, how many things did you have to memorize when you learned how to fight in the first place?
And then they got so good you didn't think about them anymore.
Yeah, and people say, oh, well, I'll be panicked, I won't remember it. If you panic, why are you walking around among us and our children and our grandchildren carrying a loaded gun?
My friend, I appreciate the knowledge as always.
Thank you, brother. Good luck.